Sorry, what were you saying? Say that part again.
We're going to commit to this, man. We're going to commit.
Okay.
Send it.
Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of I Can Do This All Day. I'm Dan, the Part-Time Avenger. That is Mark, the Resident Jedi.
Hello there. Today is the day of the reckoning that is final, which I don't believe at all, but they say it's final until somebody opens up a bunch of money. Today, we saw the Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, and we're here to talk about it.
Mission Impossible. So impossible that Ethan Hunt finds a way every single time in every one of these movies. Is your overall origin with Mission Impossible, just to refresh the audience in case they didn't watch our first ever cohabitating live podcast that we did for Dead Reckoning last year or 2 years ago. Shit.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Tom was running the whole time. I love the first Mission Impossible, which, spoilers, served me very well in this movie. I remember the first one, which had a star-studded cast. Just Emilio.
That's it. John Voight. That's it.
Well, Emilio, John Voight, Leon the Professional was in it.
Oh. Jean Reno. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, it was a great cast. I thought I really enjoyed the first one. I loved the little sneaky bits that were in it. That's still probably my favorite Mission Impossible movie. They kind of got a little weird in the middle there, and then like with this movie, apparently Ethan murdered somebody. He didn't just join the IMF, which. Like, I don't remember when they introduced that, but that was not in Mission Impossible 1.
No, they introduced that in Dead Reckoning. That's all that they did.
Okay.
That's it.
I'm like,
Yeah.
But
I like how they just sprinkle that in. Remember when you brutally killed that guy, Ethan, and then you had nowhere to turn to, and then we took you in? Like, really? No, I don't remember that, but
John Voight did the same shit.
Yeah, every single one of them.
I want to know what Emilio did, but I liked the franchise. I never watched like the old timey TV show, but the franchise stuck for me. Though in the middle, it lost me. Kind of like the Fast and the Furious movies, where I'm like, we still doing this?
That's so weird that you say that, because the middle is when it got back to its roots and it got better.
I've seen all of them at some point, but the first one and then the one where he climbs the outside of the building are my favorite.
I think that was Ghost Protocol. Was that
probably? Those are my favorite. But what about you? How long have you been digging the Impossible Mission? Are you back in the 1900s with me?
Yeah, I was yelling abort once I left the movie theater when I first saw the first Mission Impossible. It was really great. Watched it multiple times, rented it a bunch of times, and was bummed out that Tom Cruise turned into a ninja in the second one. Even though I love John Woo's action and a lot of his movies, it wasn't the right fit. And that's when, JJ came back in the third one, brought it back, and I thought that was super cool. But it was very similar to a lot of JJ Abrams stuff, to where it's just like, yep, there's a pointless ending. Like that's what it was. But it comes back full circle, apparently, in Final Reckoning. So yeah, love the movies, love Ethan Hunt as a character. Tom Cruise, this is like my favorite overall acting role for him is Ethan Hunt's, just because I love the action. I love the cool spy gadgets that they use. Got a little bit long in the tooth with the masks, but at the same time, hey, I'm here for it. That's what Mission Impossible was about for the TV show. And yeah, that's my origin with this. I went into this with an expectation of this is going to be freaking amazing, because there's no way Tom Cruise is going to let Hollywood go down. He is going to have another blockbuster. It's going to be an action-packed movie. It's going to be great. What about you? What were your expectations going into this?
So, I recently traveled internationally and have been dealing with the jet lag of being a week in a 7-hour difference. So I went to IMAX because it was going to be extra loud, and my goal was to not fall asleep during this movie. Um, because I was not like, woo, for some reason, right? Because I'm like, why is he on a biplane? How does that fit in? Other than he probably owns the biplane and is renting it to the movie studio. But I went in with the goal of not falling asleep because I knew this movie was like a Lord of the Rings movie long, like just pulling the taffy out. I again didn't watch any spoilers, didn't check out what the action scenes were going to be or whatever. I think that they gave us a lot of it was a sequel or like they stopped at mid, so you knew what characters you were going to deal with. But I did not look at the cast list or anything, and I will say that I was pleasantly surprised as we went through this movie because of some of the cast Easter eggs and certain props that returned to the fold for useful things. I did not fall asleep during this movie, and I even nodded off. I was nodding off during Thunderbolts because the fight at the end was just pointless.
Not a fight. Not
Yeah,
a
it
fight.
was just like my mind was just, but this kept my attention the whole movie. I was surprised.
What about the overall ending? Did you think, because the way that they made it sound is that Mission Impossible is coming to an end. What was your expectation of, was Ethan going to ride off into the sunset? Was he going to die? What?
So I was like, they're not gonna kill Tom Cruise in anything. Like I'm trying to think of a movie where Tom Cruise actually dies.
Far and away.
Um, yeah, right. But that, any other
That's all I
ones?
got.
Yeah, I
That's
was
all I
like,
got.
okay, that's
Oh,
one.
Taps. He got
Yes,
obliterated by the army.
yeah, that's true. Born on the 4th of July, he eventually died, right?
I
Like,
don't
let's
know. I
go.
never saw the movie. Thanks for the
Oh,
spoilers, ass.
mm, mm. Um, but yeah, I can't think of a movie made in this millennia that Tom Cruise has died. So I did not have the expectation that he would die, but I also didn't have the expectation that they would kill Ving Rhames because Ving Rhames has survived the whole thing since like mission one.
So let's go into this right now then. So I think for my expectation, I thought it was going to be a nice send off, like he retires or he hands it off to the other agents and whatever they run with the team. So that was my
Run.
expectation. But
I
let's
love
go
that
into
you
the Ving
use the
Rhames
word
one.
run.
Just because you brought up Ving Rhames, when did he get sick? Yeah,
All of
okay. All
that
right.
soldering really fucks with you.
Yeah, I guess that just gives you lung cancer. At no point was he ever disclosed as being sick in the previous movie. That's where I kind of had an issue with it. I know shit happens. People get sick. It's tragic. It's awful. That type of stuff happens in real life. I totally understand that. I guess for this, it was just more of a cheap plot driver because I was like, oh, he was not even remotely sick before. Not that I could tell. Normally you kind of lead up to that stuff. But yeah, you see him and basically like a underground hospital bunker, and that's where he is. Now, keep in mind, remember, he went in hiding from Ethan in the previous movie. He said, I'm going to be working on this. You're not going to be able to find me, but this is the only way. Apparently, that was just, oh, it's because I'm sick, Ethan. I gotta go. I'm not dying with you guys. I'm out of here, just in case the shit doesn't go smooth. So that's where I was like a little bit bummed about it. And I didn't want to see him die because I liked him as a character. Him and Benji are like my favorite characters besides Ilsa out of the entire franchise. So that's where I was like, ah, man, he's sick. He's dying. Well, he's definitely dying because he's on a hospital bed now. So there's no way he's getting out of this. I did like the way that he did what he said he was born to do, and then that's how he dies. But at the same time, I'm just like, ah, really? That kind of sucks. Luther was awesome.
Hmm. Well, at that point, I'm like, oh. maybe they are just gonna kill everybody, right? And then when eventually they shot Simon Pegg, I was like, oh,
They're
oh,
killing everyone. I thought they
they
were killing everybody.
like I didn't think they were gonna kill Agent Carter, but I was like, are they gonna kill all the OGs? What's up? At that point, when they shot Benji, there was already a lot of other plot tomfoolery that was going on that made no sense. So,
Yeah. How many of these people are going to die in this last
right?
scene? You know what I
And
mean?
how is Benji Emilio Estevez's brother now as well? Like, are we gonna find that out? Like, is Charlie Sheen in this movie? What the fuck?
I thought that when Luther was when Luther got killed, I was like, "Oh, that sucks." One of my favorite characters gone from the franchise, just like my other favorite character.
Hmm.
And I was like, "Okay, all bets are off." Tom Cruise, I don't think he's going to die, but I think he might, in a dying scene, hand it off to his team to where he saves the day, but he eventually succumbs to his injuries or something like that. That's what I thought. But because they kept on talking about that stuff, like like they're saving the for all the people you'll never meet, right? Whatever that phrase was, I thought it was a really
Hmm.
cool phrase. My apologies, I don't remember it fully as to what it was, but I thought that's what it was going to be. Is like he has done so much for the world, and he's going to sacrifice himself to save the world. But it is what it is. It didn't turn out that way. He ends up living. Luther dies. No one else dies. But kind of going backwards from it. So there's that penultimate scene where Haley Atwell is trying to capture the entity, which, by the way, the entity from the last movie was such a menacing villain. And in this one, it's just like, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
Angry Jarvis.
kind of weak, kind of weak. I was listening to an interview about something that because of COVID, this movie and the previous movie suffered because I think they just had a lot of other ideas. And then because of the way that things happened with the pandemic, they released it the way that it was. And so I can't remember if we both said that we could do it all day. I want to say we did, but that was like a great movie with a great cliffhanger. And then now they've just painted themselves into this corner of like, well, what the fuck do we do now? And I don't know if it's because of the delays that happened throughout everything, but this movie is not as tight and it is not as even cohesive as it was tying back to the previous movie. It's more cohesive to the first and the third movie than it is to the seventh. Does that make sense? I mean, am I alone in,
I
in thinking that?
I disagree. I think they tie it in enough, but there's a few ancillary connections that I feel like they took a lot out of. Like I feel like there was some there's certain things in this movie that come to a head that I think were meant to be part of the last movie to bring it over. Like the what actor was it? Um that played Jim Phelps, number two.
Oh, Shea Wiggum.
Yeah, the fact that Shea Wiggum was John Voight's son, I don't think that was supposed to be. I think we should have known that ahead of time, right? I feel like that was supposed to be told in the last movie so we could get to this movie, right? I feel like there's like to tie it back. I feel like that was just kind of dropped there and
Yeah.
then nothing. Like, I don't care that my dad's dead, or I don't care, but you should know that it was. But that's not why I don't like you. It just made it was not a driver of anything.
Yeah. It just happened to happenstance is what it was.
Right. They're just like, we're gonna tie in, like, for example, spoilers, the William Donlow tie-in was so
Great.
choice.
It was really good.
Utter perfection.
I will say my favorite character in the movie.
Yeah. Great retribution arc. But that tie-in was flawless.
Yeah.
The tie-in to Jim Phelps Jr. was useless. There was no, he could have been OJ's kid and nobody would have given a shit. We're totally watching Naked Gun, by the way. Um, but it didn't matter. The Donlo thing mattered. So why even fuck with it? I feel like because they brought back and put in front of your face Kittredge, I feel like they meant to pair Kittredge with Jim Phelps to make that the catalyst. And there probably were scenes in the first one that were cut where that dynamic was shared, because remember, on the train, Phelps and Kittredge were on the train with
Hmm.
Gabriel in the previous. I feel like there was supposed to be a tie in there because that makes sense. They're on a train in a disguise with Kittredge. It just makes so much sense there because you're on the train, which was the big action scene in the first one. So that's kind of my thoughts. Is the Kittredge thing fit was cool. I think Phelps was supposed to be a partner in that, whereas the Donlow thing just flowed so well. No, nothing was missing from it. It made me want to go back and watch the first one again
Yeah.
because it was great. They even had the
Like,
knife.
did
He
he
had
really
the fucking
say?
knife, dude. He
Yeah.
had the knife.
I'm wondering, did they really say that? Like, I want him at a post in Alaska before
Yeah,
the day's over, or whatever. Like,
yeah.
I don't remember him saying that, but I mean,
I
he must have. He must
yeah,
have because
yeah.
that's perfect. Like tying everything in together and closing the loop, if you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's utter perfection. And then Ethan has to look at him and they have the conversation and there's retribution. I think that small diatribe that he had with Jim Phelps in this movie was the supposed to be the character resolution arc that the Donlo one was, but the conflict was supposed to happen in the first half and they just cut it. Because
Maybe.
why is this guy so driven to not cut Ethan any slack? Why? Why? Oh, it's because of this. And how much, as an audience member, how much more would you have been affected if you would have known that relation much earlier? Because you
Agreed.
basically got told it and then it was resolved all in the same scene.
Yeah, I like Shea Wiggum, so it was cool to see him in the movie. But yeah, the whole Jim Phelps drop a line like
Mhm.
"I'm his son." I guess. All right,
And
but whatever. Like I had a bigger issue with Tolkien, part of the IMF team. Like, where the fuck did that guy come from?
who?
Exactly. I don't know who it was. It was like Davis was his name or something like that. Um
Token. Okay.
the guy that stayed back with Don Lowe and his wife. Who
Yeah,
the fuck was
you
he
just called him.
and why?
I thought you said Tolkien, like J.R.R. Tolkien, like you were trying to make some
Well,
obscure Lord of the Rings
no,
reference,
but
but
that's his
no,
name. That's Tolkien's name.
really?
You never saw that South Park episode? So yeah,
Token. It's
yeah,
Token.
it's Tolkien. It's Tolkien.
Really?
They address it in the show. It's like, wait, what did you think his name was? And then they're having dinner with Tolkien's parents, and there's like, like they just leave, they just drop it right after
Well,
that. But
now
like,
now there's two things I have to watch: the Tolkien South Park episode and Mission Impossible 1.
yeah, there you go. But yeah, that guy was, I mean, he was a badass, but at the same time, I was just like, I would have loved to see Maggie Q back or Thandie Newton or someone come back from the previous movies, not
Yeah.
some like new rando.
I
Like I
thought they
feel
were going to
like
make him Luther's son because everybody's kids are in this.
but that's where like there's a lot of people in this movie. And I feel like Tom Cruise was just like, "Do you want to be part of a movie blockbuster?" And if Tom Cruise asks you that, you're all gonna say yes. So that's why Hannah Waddingham was in this movie. That's why Shea Wiggum was in this movie. That's why Angela Bassett came back from Fallout. Like I feel like that's what it was. We're gonna bring back all the big names, and that's what we're gonna do. But yet they didn't do it with that character. Is he from another movie? Because I don't recall him being in anything.
I don't think so. They also, for the record, just grabbed some folks from Top Gun Maverick too.
They did.
They're like,
He's got buddies. He's got
you,
buddies.
you were a great pilot. Why don't you be a dive master in this?
Nick Offerman was in this, and you think that he's going to be the guy to try and kill the president and everything. It was just very.
That was great. Like the give me your gun thing. Like Nick Offerman's gonna go crazy because you could see Nick Offerman playing that,
Sure.
and then he just comes
But
back as a hero. I thought that was great. That was a great like surprise.
it was. But did you buy it? Like, okay, so if he didn't kill that other guy, would he have done anything? I don't know. Like, that's where I'm somewhat confused. So he steps up and saves the president. He dies. But was he going to kill the president earlier? Is that what his intention was? Because there's no way he was asking that person for his sidearm and just like, I need your sidearm because I'm going to save some people. Like, no, you ask someone for their sidearm because you're about to fucking cap someone's ass.
Well, I want to know where his gun is. Like, come on, bro.
Apparently, decorated officers don't carry firearms, and you could just order subordinates to give them yours. I just want to take a look at the cast list really quick. So Haley Atwell obviously is back. So it's been 1 year since the previous movie, correct? Was I correct in that? Okay. So in that year, Haley Atwell becomes a member of the IMF. Ethan is on the run for a year, and everyone's just cool. I thought there was like, like at the end of the last movie, I thought like, oh shit, well, Ethan Hunt is in trouble right now. I thought he was gonna be in prison this at the beginning of this movie, but
How
I
is
guess I don't remember
Tom
correct.
not in prison in this?
How's she not dead? Because I thought she died.
Yeah. Well, I guess she was in prison and then they broke her out.
Yeah,
But
but I thought she died in the last one. It was
yeah,
cool to see her. I like her character in it, and I just like Pomp Clementif just because of how she is. Like when she does the Mission Impossible interviews, even from the previous movie, I was just like, yeah, I really like her as a person. But also that's the reason why I like her as characters because she has such versatility and such range. So I was good with her, and the fact that she was back, like, okay, great. You got some scars there. That's justified. Great. We didn't see you do your last breath, even though I thought I did. But you've got the usual suspects of Ving Rhames as Luther, Simon Pegg as Benji, Cy Morales as Gabriel. Menacing in the previous movie, I thought. Side character in this movie.
lamest death in the franchise. Only one of us has a parachute, but not a helmet.
And he just gets fucking sliced. I laughed my ass off in the theater.
I
I
was
was
just
the
like,
only person to laugh at that.
That's it. Like
Yeah.
I thought Ethan was gonna have to dive and steal it. I thought they were gonna fight and he was gonna steal his parachute. And then he was, I was expecting that.
Not menacing at all because he was a force to be reckoned with in the previous one just because he had the entity and he was spitting off statistics and shit. I was like, okay, cool. Well, this guy knows everything that's going to happen, so he's a badass. This one, not even really a factor other than like, oh, I got to get him the whatever. I can't even remember what they were going to find because he had the entity.
Yeah. Well, he didn't have the entity. He just knew how to talk to the entity.
Right. That's what, yeah.
He had the special pod.
Yeah. I guess I was just kind of bummed because I was expecting something to happen with that character, get to know a little bit more about that character, because I feel like you get a glimpse of it in the previous movie, and then nothing else is ever touched. Nothing else is resolved with him. And he was even talking with Ethan because he knew a whole lot about Ethan's backstory. I thought we would get an Ethan backstory as to why he was there, and none of that ever happened.
You've got to think they could have done better with Gabriel. In my opinion, Gabriel, if they were going to do the tie back to the first movie, how was he not Krieger's kid? If everybody's kid's involved in this, like be Jean Reno's kid. Let's go. Let's do
Well,
the thing.
he's not Hispanic. Jean Reno is not Hispanic, so there's a problem with that. So that's
I mean, it's there's flexibility. I found him derivative,
okay.
kind of just in a way that was his archetype, the former spy turned villain kind of thing. He definitely did more menacing things in the first one, and in this one, it was just like, okay, I still want to control the entity, but it's been a year and a half, and I am
Yeah.
in no way able. How did he not find Ethan well before this, unless it was like, no, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. And I'm going to tell you, I have the slowest moving laser ever. They wanted to pull the taffy on him making Ethan suffer in every way possible because that's what everybody wants to do is make Ethan suffer. Like in the movie with the two nuclear weapons with um what's her name? His wife, where they go to the Arctic, and it was the guy that Ethan had to break
Oh,
out of jail. The Henry Cavill.
Fallout.
Yeah. So again, like it, Gabriel's actions weren't new per se, but when you thought he had the backing of the entity, you thought he was using ChatGPT to figure shit out. Turns out ChatGPT fired him, which again
Yeah,
makes no sense.
I was gonna say like that. I didn't really get that either. There's a lot of. I think there's a lot of problems with the story and the
Hmm.
continuity
Yeah.
of this. So and that's part of the. I'm a realist when it comes to a movie. In some cases, I'll just sit back and relax and just enjoy the show. But because this movie, this entire franchise has been, I mean, besides the spy gadgets and everything, it's relatively grounded for the most part. Like, yeah, Ethan Hunt's a superhero, but I like my superheroes being able to kick everyone's ass and be able to know what to do in every situation. So I feel like this was suffering because it shouldn't have been two movies. Dead Reckoning and Final Reckoning shouldn't have been two movies. It should have just been like one long ass epic. Or like a
Disagree.
part one, part two, or something like that.
Disagree solely for the reason of the absolute the absolute rigor of the hero's journey in this movie couldn't have been done with what they did in the last movie too. You're not making an 8-hour movie, right?
Right. But
Like,
you definitely could have cut stuff from this
but I don't
movie
want them
for
to.
sure.
I enjoyed all of the quest portion of this and the planning around the quest and the like eyelash hair that had to happen for them to meet their objective. Like, I thought the journey of this one, the mission per se, was one of the better ones that I've seen in a Mission Impossible movie. Like I have to dive down, I have to come up, I'm probably going to be dead. If you're not there with the dog sled and the decompression chamber and the chainsaw to get me out of the water, everybody died. Like the precision that the IMF team showed was insanely cool, in my opinion.
The length didn't need to be there though. Him going down to the submarine, that was my first instance of like, it was shot well, and the fact that it was done practically for a lot of those shots was really awesome. But I don't need to see him struggle to swim a couple feet 10 times. You know what I mean? Like that's where like you see some of the stuff fall down. Like so rewind it a little bit to the initial fight scene where Haley Atwell sees him just kick the shit out of the other guy. Like all you hear is just the background noise and her facial reactions. Number one, I thought that was awesome
Mhm.
because you don't need to see Ethan kick everyone's ass every single movie. I
Right.
thought that was kind of cool to be like, oh, she gets to see him in full Ethan Hunt badass mode, and
Murderedly
she's just kind of
Erdly.
shocked by it. So that was cool to me. But that's what they could have done with the submarine scene. Like they're in contact with him and then they just lose contact and it's like 10 seconds like Ethan, yeah, yeah, sorry, it was just like some
Mhm.
I had to swim up 50 yards or whatever, like just something to make it comical for Ethan just to be like, yeah, it was kind of tough, like I had to laser a shark's head off or something like that, just something to the effect that something unbelievable, impossible happened, and yet Ethan was perfectly fine and he's just going through. Not to say that I don't appreciate the practical effects of what they did, but that submarine scene was just too fucking long. I did like the fact that there was real stakes though, because seeing someone drowning is kind of tough for me, and that's just one of the things where it's like, ooh, God, this is like I was sitting there cringing in my seat, just like Tom Cruise just
Mhm.
convulsing as he got closer to the surface of the water. It was tough to see, but I like that in a movie because it's making me feel something. What I didn't like is that submarine scene made me feel something, but it was like, this is taking a long time for him to get whatever he's there to get. And that's where it kind of it took me out of it for a little bit.
Yeah. I didn't mind it. The thing that did make sense to me was him running on a treadmill before he went diving and the fight with the submariner for some reason. Like
Yeah,
that was unnecessary. But again, I didn't mind it. I didn't care. I really didn't mind the length or anything. Again, the story continuity was the problem for me. The John Voight's son could have been so much more impactful. But
yeah.
no, I don't mind the length. I didn't think I'd be able to stay up. I just went because you knew it was going to be a shitload of action. You knew it was going to be a lot of Tom Cruise running, and they gave you all that for sure. That guy ran a marathon in this movie.
And
I
he
have a problem
swam
with it.
like an Olympic swimmer. So,
Yeah, no, he's Tom Phelps at this point, right? I thought that the plane scene, while cool to me, was probably the worst action scene because there were a few things that I didn't need in it, like the oh, I'm in the front seat, but there's no controls here. What? Like he would know that. Come on. And the jumping from the one plane to the other one thing. Yeah, that's cool.
you know what
I
wasn't cool
guess.
about that I thought was comical
Hmm.
is the one punch that he would do just to
Yeah.
knock the people out. Like I laughed again in the theater. It was like, what the fuck was that? Like it was so comical to me. And yes, that's the only thing you could do in an airplane at that particular time and moment if you didn't have a gun. But it seemed like 1950s to me, where it's like one
He's not
punch knocks
Indiana
the
Jones.
yeah, it just punches him out, and it's like, yay! And it was a cool plane scene, and obviously Tom Cruise ransoms the insurance company or whatever. Is like, I'm doing the stunt. It's my plane. It's my stunt. Like whatever it is, right? Like, that's what he loves
Yeah.
to do. He loves to do his own stunts, and it was cool, but once again, too long, and the action within that, like the fighting between him and the two pilots, was comical. I just it was just ridiculous. I love this franchise, but I am not wowed by the scene. I'm wowed by the stunt work, but I'm not
Yeah.
wowed by the scene overall.
What was your favorite stunt scene in this movie?
What you do not see. What you do not see. So the fighting that takes place when Haley Atwell is like, like wincing and watching Ethan kick the shit out of the people. That was my favorite. No joke. Because I thought
Huh?
it was effective because Ethan Hunt is a trained assassin killer and really good in hand-to-hand combat. So it was like to me it was like a play off of a comic book movie or like a James Bond type of thing where it's like, oh, okay, a little bit of ridiculousness here is okay. And then they tried to get it like super grounded with the sub and the plane scene. And so that's where I'm just like, eh. Like nothing else really stood out to me for good reasons other than that. What about
Okay.
you?
I I, I liked the sub scene. The sub scene was cool to me. The journey through and the constant change of environment. I thought that that was really interesting because you see so many movies where they don't take into consideration the environment changes that the main character's causing.
You like Finding Nemo?
I mean, fish are friends, not food, right?
So that's why you like the sub scene. Okay, you just like to see people swim because that's all that was. That's
No,
all that
see,
sub scene was watching someone swim.
I think that the fact that the what had to be what like a 13-year-old wreck at that point on the bottom of the ocean, the fact that he broke the airlock and then shifted the weight inside of the weight and the buoyancy inside of the vessel then started moving. I thought that created a different level of suspense, the way it started rolling down the embankment. It wasn't as simple as in and out.
I felt like you're right in the sense that like it was cool and I don't know if the physics works out to that. I'm sure Neil deGrasse Tyson probably saw that movie and just decided to rip it to shreds. But I wasn't wowed by that. At first I was like, oh man, he's really fucked. But then it just made it more unbelievable for me because you know the other divers were talking about like, yeah, you're going to be in excruciating pain. You're going to lose function of your motor skills, your
Mhm.
muscles. You're going to be everything's going to lock up. I thought, well, dead for sure on this one, unless someone comes down in another submarine and gets him. No way that he's making it back up. And that's what it should have been. He never should have made it back up without the assistance of something else because his body probably would have imploded on the way up. I don't know the physics of it, but I'm sure like you can't be that far down in the ocean and then just swim right back up at the rate that he was going without immense physical damage to your body.
One would
Like
assume
irreparable damage.
that's why there's not going to be another movies because he after this is not going to be able to do
Yeah.
anything
Ethan's
unless he
yeah.
lives in a suspension tank forever.
Yeah, that's where like they've done a very very good job of keeping everything grounded like in I think it was the fifth one. I can't remember the name of the fifth one. The one that Rebecca Ferguson was in. I thought that was really cool. Like when he did the whole dive tank scene and she brought him back because he effectively died and drowned in the little tank and everything. This one was just too far gone. Like, no way. No fucking way. So very unbelievable for me. I thought the pacing overall was good in the movie. Just the duration of some of those action scenes is where I had a little bit of a problem. They were still expertly done. They could have trimmed it a little bit. What do you prefer out of a Mission Impossible stunt? Do you like to see like the more of like the slow action of the swimming, or do you like more of like the gunplay, fighting, car chases, all that stuff?
I think that the mode of action is inconsequential to the scale of the action. I think that that's where, like, from your perspective, I understand that the movie kind of got away from itself because it was just trying to make these so long and suspenseful and extra because that's the bar that has been set that Tom really wants to keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing longer, bigger, better per se. So I mean, it didn't Martha me for to give our listeners perspective, but I mean, I get it. I get that he's trying to chase the rabbit, and he's not gonna not do this. He's not going
Hmm.
to run all the way to Luther, which made no sense. He's not
Yeah.
going to, like it's just it needs to be that way for him to put his stamp on it. And I knew the movie you're coming to. I'm not coming here to see, the faceless man, and I don't want a representation of pure emotion for something. I mean, you know what you're getting. So let's go.
What about Ethan as a character? Do you think he was pretty consistent throughout this movie and he stayed consistent, throughout the Mission Impossible franchise?
He didn't stay consistent throughout the Mission Impossible franchise. He went from short, tight, like faded, professional Bond like agent to long haired ninja biker to,
Back to short hair.
back to short hair, now kind of in mid and thinning hair. Um, you know, Ethan's evolved, which is fine because, that's the the beautiful part of art is it's not going to be stagnant, but I think that the character from movie 1 to movie 2 worked the same. Like it was fairly consistent, and that's fine with, from my perspective. But yeah, Ethan in general is Ethan. Like I see it. I think that in this movie they may have just attempted in general to add depth that was not really there in any of the Mission Impossible movies, but maybe the first.
Would you have liked to see a little bit of Lethal Weapon aging to where like Ethan's just too old for this shit?
No, we did see that, but we saw it in Ving Rhames.
But that's where I was like, for Ethan, I think as a proper send off, which that's what was supposed to be for this movie, or at least that's what like all the impressions were leading up to for this. I mean, Final Reckoning, this should be it. I didn't have to see it like every scene, and I didn't want him to say I'm too old for this shit. It would have just been nice to be able to see Ethan just working smarter, not harder, and just be like, all right, Tolkien, you go ahead and go kill those guys down that alleyway. So you know what I mean? Like just doing something like that as
Yeah.
opposed to like I don't have to do all the heavy lifting. I've got all these young, more effective assassins and dudes and everything. Like he kind of did that a little bit with Grace, Haley Atwell's character.
Hmm.
But that's just because she was a better pickpocket. So that was the only other thing. Speaking of Grace, did you buy her and her, being able to be acclimated to the IMF as the character she was in the previous movie into this one? Is it believable? Did you like her progress and her arc?
I don't think that there was anything different about her from the first to the second, other than where she decided to affiliate herself. So it made sense to me, and it was a year, right? Like she came in with the set of skills that were needed. So then it's just about understanding reporting structure, I guess, at this point, and being properly onboarded. But nothing about it was unbelievable to me per se.
Do you think the IMF would have just stuck her with that group, or you don't think that there'd be like another IMF agent that's like, hey, why don't you go over to Johnson over there in Kentucky? Like he'll be able to teach you some stuff.
I don't know. I that didn't really strike to me because I think that when they brought that team together, these are independent people. They kind of hook up with who they want to. And the IMF, I don't believe assigned, at least based on Mission Impossible 1, if I remember, they didn't necessarily assign the team. It was Jim's team and it was this is the group we go with. So, of course she
True.
joins Ethan's team, if you will, right? Because that's her mentor.
Okay. Benji, Simon Pegg's character. So we talked a little bit about Luther, and I said that he was one of my favorites along with Benji. What did you think about him in this movie?
I was shocked he didn't die. Like he did all the normal Benji stuff. Like I don't think there was a great deviation from the normal Simon Pegg character. I do like that they like left him in charge when they needed to be, and he shied away from the crown of leadership in a way. So I dug that a little bit, but again, they didn't really do much with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what did you think about that? Like, I don't buy him as a team leader.
He wasn't the team leader. He was like the assistant. He was the assistant to the general manager, if you will.
Yeah, but Ethan says this is your team. And then, he says the famous line that I always hate when people say it's like, I got this. Like, do you? If you say I've got this, it means you need to talk yourself up and you don't have this. You're
You
not
know,
confident.
I disagree with that statement, but I mean, it just shows that Ethan is an empathetic and strong leader and has those skills as well as all the other skills that he has, right? And he has an undying trust for his family. His family.
Don Lowe. Don Lowe. Let's talk about him a little bit. Obviously, like we both enjoyed seeing him come back. And him and his Inuit wife was kind of that was my wife's favorite character, is the wife.
The wife was
She,
really funny. She was really
yeah,
funny.
yeah. And she's DTF for every down to fuck people up. That's what it is. Like she is
Yeah.
so funny. And it's like the cool thing is she told Donlo without even saying a single word that like we're gonna do the right thing and we're gonna do what we have to do. If we die, that's what it is. But this is our life.
Hmm.
And I'm just thinking, like, dude, she's a better spy than Haley Atwell right now because I feel like she's got her shit together so much better than Haley Atwell's character did.
Well, she's been part of the spy community for a lot longer.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, if you count that post in Alaska as part of the spy community, but I don't think Donlo was out there doing the same type of action that Ethan Hunt was, but it was really, really cool to see him. And I love the fact that he's not a pussy in this movie. I
Hmm.
love that, yes, you see him have diarrhea in the first one and throw up, but now he's a strong character with conviction, knows what he needs to do, when he needs to do it, and if it's him sacrificing himself, so be it. That's the mission. That's what he's been trained to do, so to speak. But yeah, just I loved it. I loved his character. My favorite character out of the entire movie, him, and that's going against Haley Atwell, which I usually pick her over everyone for any movie. But yeah.
You know, it was awesome. It was such a great throwback reference and a character that we didn't get a lot of depth on in the first Mission Impossible that they just made it so good. So,
Yeah, he went from comedic relief to
yeah.
like, oh, this guy's a hero. This guy's a legitimate hero.
And he
So,
saved the knife. I love that he saved the knife.
I mean, that's I you would think an intelligence officer with his resources, he would have been able to at least find something out about that
Mhm.
knife, right? And technically, it wasn't even Ethan's knife. I
No,
don't know why Ethan was like, "Oh, my knife." Like, no, it's not even your knife, dude. If anything, he should have been like, "What the fuck is this?" I have
well,
no
I mean,
idea
you
what this
remember.
is.
No, it's a good coat. That's basically the moment.
But it was a lot of good callbacks. What about, so we talked about stunts already, but what about the overall things that potentially Martha us in this movie? We talked about a lot of good stuff. We talked about some other things that we felt a little bit perturbed about, but anything Martha you?
I want to say that Gabriel's death, but it didn't Martha me per se. It was lame. It was just lame. The Jim Phelps storyline Marthaed me because it made no sense. It drove no plot points, and it was so abrupt. Just like, oh, that was my dad. I'm not mad at you about it though, because he knew what he was doing. I love my daddy. Okay, we're moving on. Right? Like that was it.
He must not have read the case file that it's like, oh, so he was in cahoots with the this other agent? Like, yeah, I don't know.
But I mean,
Um,
like,
fair enough.
let's put him in cahoots with Kittredge for a reason, and give them like. There's so much they could have done with that they did absolutely nothing with.
Why is he assigned to track down Ethan? And he's just he's a U.S. intelligence agent, so it doesn't say what agency he's a part of, whether it's FBI, CIA, whatever. At least I don't think
Yeah,
that that
I
was
think it's
mentioned,
IMF.
right? You think so? IMF,
Yeah,
really?
because he keeps
Okay.
reporting back to Kittredge.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But
Eh.
I mean that again, not neither here nor there. The way they introduced his etymology is the thing that really bothered me. And then he did nothing to drive the plot other than be an impedance and eventually a partner. But again, nothing that was like, whoa. But regardless, right? That was my Martha moment. What was yours?
I would say the fact that Hannah Waddingham, as much as I like her as an actress, and I like
Hmm.
seeing her come up in things, it didn't serve a point to the movie. Like she has a connection to the president, which is
Hmm.
I don't know like what type of connection that she had, but it just seemed like, hey, can we get some other movie stars in here? Yeah, yeah. Let's call up Hannah Waddingham and see what she's up to. Oh, she has a British accent. Can she do an American accent? Okay, fine. Bring her in. We'll have her a captain of the Navy or something like that. I feel like it was just let's pack this fucking movie in with movie stars and TV stars, whatever stars, and let's make a spectacle. Which it was a spectacle. Just crazy stuff happening everywhere. But I feel like her, like, I would have liked to see more from her and some type of connection as opposed to, oh, I know the president and I do some crazy shit. She gave me like this note with the date on there. I remember that. I remember a girl on 4th Street, like from Wayne's World 2 or whatever. It just
Yes, I
seems
do.
like, oh, forced monologue insert here. And then I'm not going to be able to help you, but I know someone who might be crazy enough to help you. Like that was also a little bit of cliche to me, to where it's like, oh, all right, so we're just doing side quest to side quest, so that way we can get to another side quest.
Yeah.
So it's like, ugh. It was like a Final Fantasy movie to me. So Final Fantasy, I'm not big into RPG games, but there was one game specifically that I really got hooked on. That was Final Fantasy VII. I became obsessed. And there's so many freaking side quests, and they take so long, and some of them are impossible. Some people that have played the game for forever have not even completed those particular side quests. So I feel like this was like a Final Fantasy in the sense that Ethan was going on all these side quests, and he didn't really have to. That's the other thing that Martha me is like he did not have to do all these side quests. But here
Yeah.
they are anyway.
No, I feel you there. I think that I don't know. One, I was so impressed with Hannah Waddingham's new accent or like accent and dropping it. Like I was that I thought that they like dubbed her voice. It was so good. Um
American accents are pretty easy to do for most people.
yeah, she's just super British, so it's just not something I've seen and put together. But either way, like I enjoyed her, but I hear you. And your Martha Ing is valid.
Yeah. But that's it. I mean, it's about as I wasn't in the theater standing up going, what the fuck is going on? It wasn't that much of a Mar thing, but at the same time, like when I leave a movie theater and I just
Mhm.
can't connect the dots, that's where, that's grounds for Martha in my opinion. So
It makes sense, man. It makes sense.
all right, but okay, so we went over a lot of different stuff. Why don't I just ask you a question, Mark? When it comes to Tom Cruise, that crazy son of a bitch, and his character Ethan Hunt, Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning, can you do this all day?
Yo, I will say that that was one of my favorite lines in the entire movie. That son of a bitch. I was like, so as much as we've talked about this movie having some pretty soft edges in some areas, there's some areas that are really strong, and that is why in this situation, by the skin of its teeth, I'll say, you son of a bitch, I'm in. I will do this movie all day for the short term. I'll probably watch it when it comes to streaming again. Will it be a regular rotation piece? Probably not because it's fucking long as balls. But this was an end game level end to a long-standing character, right? Like this is one of the few um, you know, final episodes that really hit that Avengers Endgame level for me at least. And while I was watching the theater, I'm just like, fuck, they're going for it here. And I appreciated that. I appreciated that. So yeah, I can. But um the hypocrisy is strong with this podcast, and the opinions are usually varied as well. After you ask me, it's only polite that I ask you as well, Dan. Can you final reckon all day?
Mission Impossible as a series might be like one of my top three franchises, I think.
Mm.
So I would say that that's pretty safe to say. Like, you factor in like a few other great competitors within that, but the longevity is there. Tom Cruise is a bona fide movie star, perhaps the last movie star that we have in this generation. But with that being said, action, I'm a big action person, and I now know how some people feel about John Wick and the John Wick movies because John Wick kind of upped the action every movie that went on. And so was Mission Impossible. However, I like my action in a particular style, in a particular way. If you're going to have really long action scenes, it needs to involve gunplay, martial arts, maybe a car wreck. Swimming in a submarine is not my idea of action. It was a very, very impressive sequence, don't get me wrong. However, because I'm not invested in him swimming and dodging debris for what seemed to be 15 minutes, 20 minutes maybe, I lost myself in the movie and I was like, okay, I get it for all those people who watched John Wick and didn't want to see him fire off 5,000 rounds. Like I totally get that. And some people like gunplay, some people like martial arts, some people like underwater swimming, synchronized swimming, if you will. That's pretty much what that was to me. But it wasn't for me. And the fact that, along with the plane sequence, were so fucking long. I kept on looking over to my wife, and she's like, "How long is this fucking movie?" I was like, we're almost there. There's like another 30 minutes left, and 10 of it was him swimming, and then another 15 of it was him flying. So it's like, I don't know if that math adds up, right? But you know what I mean, right? So it's I'm trying to keep as level of a head about this movie and give a true, fair, honest answer because there's things that I really loved. I loved Palm Clementif coming back. I loved seeing Benji kind of take on a little bit more of a role, but still staying true to what his character was like. He didn't all of a sudden turn on a dime and just become this badass that, almost an Ethan Hunt replacement. No, he was still just Benji. He was a smart dude. He knew what to do. He could figure some stuff out, and he could help people like Haley Atwell's character disarm the little bomb thing and trap the entity. But there's, you've got some really great things. Donlo, favorite character, his wife, another solid character on that. But there's just too many things that are not necessary, in my opinion, or just come out of nowhere. The Phelps thing, I didn't have as big of an issue with it as you did, but I totally understand it. Came out of nowhere. You've got the it was Phelps's partner, his former partner. That's who I was joking about. I kept on referring to him as Tolkien. But yeah, he came out of nowhere. And yet he's a badass. He came out of nowhere and he still is willingly helping Ethan and his
Yeah.
team. Um, Nick Offerman, Hannah Waddingham, Tremel Tillman, really great to see those people, but shoehorn, meet cast. Let's get some more people in here and let's just do some stuff. And then you got Katie O'Brien, which was kind of a nice, I think more of a legitimate type of military type that you would see,
Hmm.
and she was just kind of shoehorned in there. And then the person that decided to attack Ethan when he's running in his undies, like it was just a lot going on, and not all of it completely, excuse me, not all of it completely necessary. So that's why I'm struggling to say this, but I cannot do this all day. There's too many things I can nitpick. There's too many things I would X out, too many things I would fast forward in this movie if I were to watch it again. Will I watch it again? Maybe not anytime soon. Maybe when I'm doing if we decide to do a back catalog of like just re-reviewing movies that we've seen a few years ago, then maybe we'll do that. But yeah, can't do it all day, man. As much as I'd love to say that Tom Cruise has saved Hollywood and this was another blockbuster, I myself cannot do this all day.
I saw it coming somehow.
Yeah. I think it's, and to be fair, it sounds like I just shit on this movie for the entirety of this podcast. But there's a lot of stuff I liked. It's just, I felt so strongly and it was so obvious on those other parts.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. I think the thing that put it over the edge for me on an I can do this all day is the Luther monologue at the end.
That was
They
great.
just tied it so well together. They gave such like a real emotional piece at the end of it, so it wasn't just running, 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 and running and flying. So that to me was the I Googled just the the words to it to be able to read through it again because that's how deep I found it in the movie. So,
I'm glad that they did that because if they
mhm.
didn't do that, that would have Marthaed me. It's like Luther just fucking died for nothing. This is bullshit, and they don't even have a proper send off for him, but they did. So
Well, and the fact that
that was
it
great.
self-destructed and it just full circled it. So again, it's the little things in the story that rose above the shitty things that made me do it all day.
So do you think, knowing that we've said that I can do this all day and I cannot do this all day,
Hmm.
um, do you think that they've finished, or do you think that they left it open, too open, because Haley was saying like, well, what if we could undo all the wrong that the entity did? Like, what do you think?
I think that they may hand it off. It may be Cruz's last one, but who knows? Who knows, man? It really depends. It I don't know what kind of money this is making so far, but it hasn't looked like stupid. I think Lilo and Stitch beat it at the box office this
It
weekend.
did, yeah. Came
Um,
in second.
so that's not like that's not good.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's unexpected for a kids movie. That's a remake to blow this up in that way. So I don't know if they'll do more, but I mean, if Tom wants to do it, you know, who knew they'd do another Maverick? Who knew they're gonna do Maverick 3? He may want to bring more actors from Maverick 3 into another series. So,
Glenn Powell is going to come in as
uh,
Ethan's son from his other marriage that was never that never talked about in the movies. That's
only
what's going to happen.
consummated, never talked about. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's talk about somebody you expected to be in this movie. Either Glenn Powell um, or Rooster. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like, what the hell, man?
They're just waiting for the call. Like, come on, Tom. Come on.
Tom, this
uh
cake was amazing. Any movies I can be in?
yeah. Oh
For the
man.
record, for the record, I have tried the Tom Cruise cake. My
And
wife ordered it for me for my birthday this year because I'm old, and it was amazing.
where is
Like,
it from?
this small, I got it off Gold Belly. It's from
Oh
this
yeah, yeah.
small bakery in California, but the hype is legit. Like, so legit. Perhaps too legit. Um,
To
it
quit?
is. Let's put it this way: I didn't throw any of it away. It kept for long enough for me to just enjoy slice after slice, my guy. Um, highly recommend. I would recommend the Tom Cruise cake more than I would recommend this movie.
Sold. And on that note, everyone, that wraps it up for another episode of the I Can Do This All Day podcast. I'm Dan the Part-Time Avenger. That's Mark the Resident Jedi.
Hey, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let us know what you loved, hated, could or couldn't do all day about this movie. Let us know your Marthas and hit us up on all of the socials at I Can Do This All Day podcast, wherever you decide to heckle us. Shout out to all of our international listeners, including the possibility of those in the Czech Republic. What up? Yeah, this podcast will not self destruct as we close this out, unless it's in a Tesla, perhaps. We don't know.
We'll see you next time, everyone.